more than ever before, because the scenario we are in is the lives of our colleagues, especially those who go to the field, much more difficult things. Right now, everybody wants to hear from the guest of honor, and I want to take this singular opportunity to invite the guest of honor. But before he comes in, the person is going to speak to you. Nangoli. He holds a diploma in war journalism, Uganda Institute of Media and Business Studies. He holds a diploma in education from Kyambogo University. He holds a bachelor's of education from Islamic University in Uganda. He holds a master's of education from IUIU. He is a former teacher of Masaba Secondary School, former chairman L33, Busulan Sub-County in Sironko. He is a former RDC of Male District. He is a former RDC of Manafa District. Currently, he is aspiring to go to the Parliament of Uganda to represent Northern City Division in Mbale City. The person we're speaking about is a person I've known, has a wealth of experience, and is also now doing business behind the scenes. And that's why you don't even ask why, who is funding him. He's a self-funded person in this politics. Don't look out if you are looking for those soliciting for whatever. I am not telling my colleagues to begin going writing the positive stories so that they attract traffic from the outside. Haji Nangoli, please come and address.
Thank you very much, my brother, my young brother. The leadership of this university, our good lecturer, all my colleagues, the journalists in this room, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to greet you in the most appropriate manner. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Muslims, may God's name be glorified. Amen. It is very difficult to talk after very experienced and good speakers. Forewarned, forearmed. I want to warn you, as much as I look a bit organized, my communication to you may not be very organized. For two reasons. One, I got the invitation, but I forgot my card somewhere, so I didn't look at the thing. If I had kept my card, which had the theme, I would have organized myself. That is one reason I'm not going to be organized. Very elementary information about journalism. I'm not going to, my talk is going to be only 0.1% about AI. But I want to give you some insight about what a journalist is, or what journalism is. I know you have learned about this. You may wonder why this tall man wants to take us back to elementary knowledge about journalism. But before I talk about journalism, naming or arrangement of anything is very important in the outcome, in the results. For example, we have issues about the Ministry of Planning, a Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Some of the challenges we are having in that ministry is because of the naming of that ministry. You try to look at and analyze this properly. How can you name a ministry, finance, planning and economic development? Why don't you name it planning, finance and economic development? Because you cannot first finance before you plan. See, naming is very important. That's why our elders tell us that when you are naming your children, you must be very, very keen and particular about the names we give to our offspring. So if I go to Parliament, the first thing I'm going to tackle is to change the naming of that ministry. So that it is it's not going to be named Finance, Planning, and Economic Development. It should be named Planning, Finance, and Economic Development. So in journalism, the elementary knowledges we are supposed to gather, process, and inform. Now we have journalists who don't follow that trend. They even begin informing before they process. Before they think of processing information, they are already informed. That's what Madam has just been talking about. So, as a journalist, you first gather information, process it. There is no time for me to explain the processing criteria. But any information that is not properly processed, and then you inform, you are bound to get problems. I want to give you a small story of the late Benibera. How many of you knew Benibera?
That's the man.
Benibera, at one time he was the editor-in-chief of Ugandan Agas during a ministry team.
He's still living.
He's still living?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But he must be in his advanced ages. Now, that senior journalist was one of our lecturers at Ugandan Institute of Business and Media Studies. He told us a story that one time, while he was the editor-in-chief of Ugandan Agas, a story was published, heavy paper. Rapes. Instead of the word rap, they used the word rapes. And of course, those handlers of media brought it to the attention of His Excellency the President. And the leader was summoned. They put him on the floor, and they asked him to explain why he was masquerading around with stories that rapes. And he says by the time he left the room, he had wet pants. The old pants were soiled and wet. Because there was a Maria Mungu in the corner there holding the pistol and playing around with the pistol. So he didn't know whether he was going to survive the next minute. So that's why I'm telling you, my fellow colleagues, let us always process information before we inform. Our aim is to, of course, inform, educate, and guide. That's why in traditional Europe, some of you, I know maybe all of you know how the name Fourth Estate came about. But let me remind you that during the traditional Europe, the estates were three. It was the clergy or the church, the nobility, and then the commoners. But because of mistreatment and discrimination that was existing then, of course the commoners were the most oppressed. Now from the commoners emerged another group of people called the bourgeoisie. Now out of the bourgeoisie emerged a group of people who were willing to die for the cause of freedom and liberty. So they started organizing information, spreading it around about how people should fight for their freedom and liberty. So this group of people became the Fourth Estate. I know now we are talking about the Fifth Estate and other estates will come about. So I want to inform you, ladies and gentlemen, that this estate, called the Fourth Estate, is very key in the development of a nation. Any nation we talk about, That's why Israel covering the dirt that the Israelis are doing, because they are not being objective. What we see, the roads that we see, the atrocities that we see on CNN, on Al Jazeera and other objective media fraternity, is because we have journalists who are impartial, who are objective. I want to call upon you that you are in a profession that can do or undo a nation. You are a very powerful family that, if not well worked out, can end up breaking a nation. We have had coups, we have had revolutions, we have had wars erupting as a result of misinformation or deliberate misguidance of society. Journalists started the Arab Spring in the Middle East, not because they aimed at, their target was to bring the Arab Spring. Who published the story of the other young man who lit himself in which country? Was it Algeria or Tunisia? I think it was Tunisia. The person who published that story added a lot of salt, a lot of onions, and when people read about it, the following day there was an Arab Spring in Tunisia. The following week it was in Algeria, it was in Egypt, it was everywhere. It even swept other areas which were even thousands of miles away from Tunisia. So ladies and gentlemen, we are very, very powerful. We can help a nation to grow. We can shape democracy. We have talked about, my previous speakers, who talked about how we can misuse AI. There are people, if you look at some of the content, most especially on TikTok, you will find that even people use AI to craft in voices which are not for the characters that are paraded in the TikTok. And they do it so perfectly that you may imagine that it is that person speaking. So people who don't understand the difference of reality and AI, manipulation of technology, may take that for gospel truth. And by the time you realize, the country is on fire. So ladies and gentlemen, as we practice journalism and mass communication, let us bear in mind that we are a very powerful institution that can help a nation to grow or that can bring down a nation. Last, there is something that was on TikTok about myself. Whoever put that, it was when I appeared before Bamkemelele on the land issues. Whoever put that on TikTok carefully edited that clip. Whatever I said that was to do with the truth was completely edited out to suit the interest of the people who wanted to mad sleep. So you can see how dangerous you people can be or how useful you can be. I want to call upon you as I conclude that please, as we practice our journalism, as we write our stories, let us be mindful of the fact that we are accountable to God about what we do. If you mislead society, definitely at time T, your misinformation will catch up with you. As a believer, I believe that anything that you write negative about somebody, intentionally to mislead, will come to backfire. Either when you are still living on this world or in the hereafter. But if you do the right thing, definitely you are going to benefit here and even in the hereafter. Because this is a profession. You are like a nurse who has been given a patient, and instead of administering the proper dose, you either give overdose or underdose with the intention of killing this person either slowly or quickly. So definitely, as we practice journalism, I call upon us to do the right thing. Let us be impartial, let us be objective, let us be truthful. In that way, we shall, in either directly or indirectly, shape society, help our nations to grow and develop. With these few remarks, I want to once again thank you for this day. It's a very important day, a day which is recognized globally. I want to thank the organizers for inviting me to preside over this function as the chief guest. I cannot take this for granted. I am very humbled, and may God reward each one of you. In Bugisu, there is a saying that if you are sitting here in Bugisu, they can tell you what it means. There is no time for me to explain that. So whoever gave me this microphone, gave me this microphone, I cannot do myself injustice by not talking about my politics. I am going to contest for the position of Member of Parliament, Northern State Division, and I want to call upon you, my colleagues, to stand with me. I am very proud of being a journalist. My child have never practiced journalism.
Can I have a polling station?
Yes.
We have a polling station.
You have about 2 polling stations here. 3. For primaries, you have 3. I call upon all of you here, both members of this great university and those from without, to stand with me. You will have stood with the right choice. I mean well for the communities in this division. I mean well for this constituency. I mean well for this country. For God and my country, may God bless you.